Hi and welcome to School Shorts with me, Melissa Chan-Green. In this episode, we are joined by Constable Brian Ward. For many years, he has been the face of police education within schools and school safety, and I've been lucky enough to know him for some of that, not because I did anything wrong, just lucky enough to be involved in various campaigns like Pink Shirt Day and anti-bullying campaigns and the likes. We recently had a very wide-ranging discussion about different aspects of safety for children at school and in the home too. But there has been a development just very recently since we recorded that. So Constable Ward is joining us from the station right now to update us with that. And those developments have been 2 reported cases of attempted abductions outside schools in the past week. One, a 9-year-old boy who was walking home for the first time, and allegedly a man approached him and tried to force him into a car and bystanders intervened. Another one, also a young boy, has reported that a woman approached him in a car and asked him if he would like a ride. So Constable Brian, thank you very much again for your time. We're going to go to that other discussion soon, but if I can ask you about these recent developments, because parents looking at that will be quite concerned.
Yeah, you're right. And look, let's get a couple of things sort of out of the way here, Mel. The first is that both of those children are fine, which is a good thing. And one of the instances, the boy in question did absolutely everything right, which is great. Clearly his mum and dad or his caregivers have taught him well, and I'm hoping that the local school community officer has too as well. So that's great. Yeah, I don't know too much about the individual cases, but as I've stated on many different occasions, that we have to keep it into some type of perspective. I'm not saying that it's not a horrible thing, because it certainly is, but generally, as a general rule of thumb, the stats show us that children are more likely to be abused or harmed by their family or their whānau members, not strangers. That's part of the reason that police departments around the world have moved away from the stranger danger type concept and moved to sort of tricky situations or tricky people, those types of sort of catchphrases, so that kids can relate and actually have some idea about, actually, this man's just asked me to come and look at his comic book collection, or ask me if I want a Nintendo Switch or something like that. That's a little bit of a tricky situation. I don't feel good. I'm going to get myself to a place of safety, stay calm, and then I'm going to talk to an adult that I trust. And that's one of the things we cover off about who kids can actually identify and trust in their community. And then they can actually talk to them and say, this made me feel uncomfortable because, and then hopefully they get to a place of safety.
Yeah, because I guess the difference then is you're saying that anybody can make you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you might deem as a stranger, because that's quite a hard term to define.
Yeah, you're right. And, a lot of them are perpetuated stereotypes as well. The second I start talking to you about it, we all have the visions of that man in that grey coat who drives a panel van, and all of a sudden there's no sunshine in the sky either, because it's normally a grey and dark day as well. So you can see where I'm going with this. And that's the type of sort of, I'm not going to say paranoia, because it's not. Every parent wants to look after their children. They're one of their treasures. But we need to sort of move away from that a little bit and actually empower kids to make the right decisions, so that if they do get themselves into a tricky situation or something doesn't seem right, they know that they can come and see an adult that they can trust. They can identify that adult, but they also know that there's going to be no retribution from the adult that they talk to. They're not in any trouble themselves, and that they have actually done the right thing.
What advice would you give to parents who, because there's also this movement to trying to give children back some of that independence, trying to teach them actually how to walk home by themselves safely. So what advice would you give to parents in terms of the conversations that they could have with their children about the things they need to be aware of when they're walking to and from school?
So for me, like with my son, one of the things that we very often do is at the weekend, we will walk to school. And on the way to school, we'll play what-if games, or we'll go, oh, hang on, and Dad will be a bit silly and go, perhaps I could take a shortcut down this here. And he might look at me and go, actually, Dad, that doesn't seem very safe, because, the footpath's broken or something else like that. So we're identifying the places, and then I might say to him, oh, perhaps I'm feeling a bit unsafe. Where would I go? And he sort of or you could go to the dairy, it's about there. So he's identifying and also recognising places that may be tricky or dangerous to him and coming up with some strategies. So it's one of those things, like if your children are little, for instance, by all means, make sure that you hold their hands, take them to school. That's a great thing. But as they get older, get a little bit more free range with them. Give them sort of 10, 15 metres, and they might walk to school, and then have a chat to them on the way back from school if you pick them up and say, hey, did you notice the sneaky driveway here? Or did you notice that there's a huge pothole on the road here or something? Or somebody's just done a big U-turn, so that they get to recognise those dangers as well as those places of safety and the people that they can trust.
Mm. The other day, I live near a school, and I was sitting near the front window, and I saw this police officer pop their head around my the driveway and looked straight in, and I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? And then the next thing, there was this group of school children behind her, and she was teaching them about looking in the driveways. It was so funny. It gave me such a fright, but it's great. That's obviously the work that you and your colleagues are doing in schools as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things. I mean, it's everything from road safety to healthy bodies, healthy minds, keeping ourselves safe, obviously, which is an abuse prevention program. Right the way up to sort of high school, where we're teaching Loves Me Not, which again is about healthy relationships. And again, the themes are very common. It's just being able to recognise the hazards, the dangers, or the issues, finding somebody you can talk to without fear of retribution. And that is so, so important. I don't think people actually realise the number of children that go to court and are absolutely terrified, one, about the consequences that they're not going to face from the court or the offender, but they're actually more worried about the consequences that they're going to face from their family and their caregivers, which is a really, really sad thing. So, and just being able to convey to kids that, you've done exactly the right things. You've done amazing.
Okay, well, you've spoken obviously earlier with me about all the work that you're doing in schools, and you've given a lot more safety advice, which is really useful tips for parents. So we'll head off to that now, and I thank you so much for your time with an update on what we've seen reported recently.
My pleasure, Kiki.
If you can just share with our listeners, first of all, what it is that you do, especially in schools.
I wish I knew, Mel. No, I'm teasing.
You're still getting used to it.
Oh, yeah. So I've been a police officer 28, 29 years, I guess, this year. My first 20 years were in Counties Manukau, and it was there that I saw community policing for the first time. So I became, by default, a community constable and what we call a school community officer. Because the town I was in, Otahu, was so small I could visit the schools and do the community policing. Since then, I've moved up north, so I'm now just a school community officer. I cover with my partner 58 schools.
Whoa,
together, the two of us. Yeah, it's huge. So we deliver in the trade what's called as developmental crime prevention messages. You might call them safety messages, as well as doing community policing and the such like. So our role is to make sure that kids and parents and all caregivers are empowered for their kids' safety, I guess.
And lots of people will know you, of course, from Bryan and Bobby.
Yes, I'm not the furry one. Yeah, that's what I tell everybody, yeah.
My son was going to come along while we were recording today, and I said, Brian's going to be there. And he said, which one is that?
Yeah.
It's the police officer, not the dog.
It's so disappointing. I turn up at the school and it's like, he's not here. And I'm like, I'm sorry, kids.
He is helpful in terms of delivering your message, but what is some of the messages that you're going into schools and talking about? Because I know one of them would be road safety, but there are many others.
Yeah, so we have road safety messages. So your sneaky driveways, for instance, holding hands when you're crossing the road, stop, look and listening. And then we have the other stuff. So we have cyber safety lessons. We have keeping ourselves safe, which is a really big part for us. And then going up to high school level, we have lessons and lectures on healthy relationships and what they look like.
Oh, right.
So that when you are sort of 15 or 16, you realise that actually you might be in love with a boy or a girl, but them sending you 70 text messages in a day is not normal behaviour, and you might need to reset your boundaries for that relationship.
That's really interesting, because I don't think a lot of people would think that was part of your role. But when you think about it, coming from a police officer to hear those messages does make a student, I guess, understand the seriousness of that.
Yeah, and as I always say to people, Picture me as not the crash barrier, not the road, but the street sign at the very top of the road where there's the cliff at the end of the road. I'm the person that's sort of waving you down saying, you don't want to go this way, you maybe want to go the other way.
We've seen what happens at the cliff, and I'm going to stop you from getting there.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose, is so that maybe because a mum or a dad or a child or somebody has seen maybe me on TV or me at a school or another school community officer, they go, remember what Constable Gordon told you? Oh yeah, okay, that made sense to me, and away we go. And I have to say, one of the biggest issues we have is parents not explaining the why to their kids when it comes to safety.
Right.
It's just this, do that, or would you stop doing that? Don't climb up there because you'll hurt yourself. Well, where's the why? Because let's be honest, if I came in here and said to you, Mel, we're not doing the podcast today, I've decided we're going to do it 3 days' time, the first question out of your mouth would be, why? So that's really, really important to explain the why. Why don't I climb up? Well, because it's 2.5 metres up there, and if you climb up 2.5 metres, most kids in New Zealand, well, most people in New Zealand go to hospital for slips, trips and falls. Guess which one that is? Yeah. You don't want to be one of those people, do you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. So you're there with the why.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you about one of the topics, which I think is one, rightly or wrongly, is probably up there as one of the main topics on parents' minds, and that's stranger danger. Yep. What is it that you want parents to know about stranger danger, and what is it too that I guess you tell the children?
I don't mean to be smiling. The reason I'm smiling is because I get this question all the time at school meetings. Don't teach them stranger danger is the question. Reason being is, if I ask you about stranger danger, instantly your brain goes to a dodgy looking guy, it's always a guy, in a panel van, right? Do we actually have like those American panel vans in New Zealand, right? That's going to give away lollies or sweets or ask a trick question or something else. Rather than doing that, let's concentrate on the fact that most children who get abused, or most people who are abducted, and luckily we don't have a very high rate in New Zealand, is actually by family members, whānau members, or people that they know. So let's concentrate on empowering our kids to know the difference between a tricky situation and what I call the garbage throwaway adult line. Again, we don't do the why. Don't ever talk to strangers. Okay, cool. And like I say to the kids, wow. I say, have you ever been to the movies on your own? And they're like, yeah. I said, how did you get into the pictures? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, when the person behind the counter said, which movie do you want to go to? What did you say? And they're like, I just told them, like, oh, you spoke to a stranger. And they're like, oh, yeah. But it's actually about empowering kids too. So when you go to the shops, for instance, with your little fella, give him the money and get him to pay so that he knows, oh, okay, that man or person behind the counter is a stranger, but I can talk to them. Classic example, and it's one of my biggest bugbears. Here comes the police officer, and I told you he'd take you away, right, at the supermarket. We say it in jest. My mum said it, right? Don't tell them that, because if your child's lost and needs some help, and I come around the corner and they see me, well, I'm the police officer. I'm going to take them away. I'm not, am I? I'm actually going to help them. So, give us a fist bump, give us a high five, promote people who are in uniforms to your kids as places of safety, people that you can go and talk to and say, hey, when I was talking to this person over there, they made me feel really uncomfortable and they spoke to me about something which I didn't feel good about. Could I have your help, please? I
have wondered this because my son's quite into goodies and baddies,
Yeah, as we all are. Yeah.
And but as part of a storytelling process. So it's kind of cute because he's making up stories. But he'll sometimes say, this is what a baddie looks like. And I am trying to explain to him that baddies don't have a look, that baddies are just people that make you feel uncomfortable or that might get you to try and do something that you don't feel like you want to do. What is the right thing to say about
So talk to kids about the tricky situations and just talk to them about people not looking like a baddie. I mean, we all know if we look at something like, I'll throw it out there, something like Thanos or something else like that, ultimate baddie, Darth Vader, straight away we know, hey, he's a bad guy, right? But most of us, we look for stuff in people and we go, oh, they're obviously a bad person. A person who walks with a limp isn't a bad person. It just means they might have a disability.
Yeah.
A person who's got one eye, same thing. And you can see the stereotypes kicking in now. And again, when I'm talking to parents, I'll say to them, I could very often bring you in a picture of, let's say, Ted Bundy, one of America's most notorious serial killers. you would say, but he looks so normal. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole purpose. So the whole thing is with your kids, teach them being okay and coming to see you about uncomfortable situations and saying, I don't feel quite right, or that person just said something to me and it's made me feel a little bit funny. That's the big thing.
Do you think it's quite funny that we are often so worried about stranger danger in terms of, like, don't walk down the street and talk to anyone, when there's probably more danger online?
Yeah. Like, we worry more about stranger danger as parents than we do, for instance, your child putting a seatbelt on, because that's just an automatic sometimes, right? Or running down the road 40 metres ahead of us, but yet I've been to plenty of incidences where kids have been hit with cars coming out of driveways and the such like. So we do. We worry more about stranger danger than the other things, and actually getting our kids to, and we all know, like you and I both know, you're not going to share everything with your mum and dad. You just don't, especially when you're a teenager. But they should be comfortable enough to come and see you and say, this has just happened. It's made me feel really not quite right, or somebody's made this approach to me and I'm not too sure. The other thing, I guess, is taking an active interest in what your child's doing. For me, it was rugby when I was a kid, or music. So if I'd gone up to my dad and said, hey, Dad, did you see that? I don't know, and I'm going to age myself here. Benny McCall's playing instead of Walter Little this weekend, and he'd gone to me, oh, I'm not really interested in rugby, I'm more of a soccer man. It would probably have been the last time I'd ever spoke to him about the All Blacks. Same with Minecraft. If your child plays Minecraft, for instance, and you don't know the difference between a creeper and an enderman, or you've never played with them, or you don't know what a chicken jockey is, then guess what? You're not part of that world.
Yeah.
And you need to be part of that world. And I can't understand Minecraft. My son plays it. I sit there and I'm like, can I get these 30 minutes back? No. But, we're engaged and we're having fun, and wow, look at that. Wow, you've dug a huge hole there. I know that if something pops up, and he normally plays offline, so that's fine, he's going to be able to come to me and say, Dad, when I was being chased by an enderman, somebody said this to me. Oh, okay, cool. Let me know. Yeah.
I guess that's probably part of the training you get in police, right, is to be able to relate to people on their level. And so you're saying it's kind of the same with children, find common areas of interest and be able to relate to people in that way.
Yeah, and be like an active part of your child's world. If your child shows an interest in superheroes and you really couldn't care less for them, then bad news is, Mum, by default, you've got to. It's just one of those things. Do your study.
I now love dinosaurs.
There you go, yeah.
When we are out and about with our children, and perhaps we're in a large crowd, I wondered if you had any strategies for how to keep children safe in that kind of situation. Because I've often said to my kids, this is our meeting place. And I'll tell you why I tell this story is that once I was in a shop and I went around the corner of an aisle.
You lost him, didn't you, Mel?
Well, I'm not going to say I lost him because I didn't really lose him, but...
you get the heart palpitations?
Oh, immediately there was a woman in the other aisle who did the right thing too, but saw that there was this little boy and said, where's your mum gone? And then took him to the front. But then I popped my head back around the aisle and he was gone.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, I have never ever been so worried in my whole life.
Yeah. I'm a police officer. I had the same thing happen with my son. I feel that moment. Yeah. So organise a meeting point, like you say, beforehand. So as I say to all the kids, if you ever walk past a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy standing by the side of the baked beans, don't worry about it. That's my son. He's waiting until I come round. Either I've lost him or he's lost me.
Yeah.
Teach your kids their name, their address, and most importantly, because none of us do it in the cell phone era, a cell phone number they can give to somebody. Most of us now just look at a screen and go, Mum. And we don't know the number. So that's really, really important. And just make sure that if they know, oh, I've lost Mummy, what to actually do. Go and find somebody in your uniform. Go and find somebody behind the counter and say to them, hi, my name is... here's my problem. Yeah.
I was really proud because he went to the front and told them my name, his mum's name, and so then they could call for me. But oh my goodness, I can't actually believe I'm speaking about this because it still makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
Civil defence events, so on a bigger scale, I guess. What kinds of plans do you need to make in that event with children?
So I guess the big thing here is for most adults as well is if I said to you, do you have a kit at home for me to basically knock on your door as a police officer and say you've got 10 minutes to evacuate?
You're making me feel, this is a terrible podcast now, Brian. No, I don't.
Right, but same thing. So you should have what in my family call it a go bag. Civil defence call it a get ready, get through bag. Documents. Maybe a computer hard drive if you're really keen on documents and everything else. Medication, if your kids take medication, that type of stuff. And again, explain to the why to the kids. We've got this bag in the corridor. Explain to them where it is. It's got 4 drink bottles in it. It's got, muesli bars in it, because we're going to have to survive the next 2 or 3 days maybe without any power or without actually being in our house, because we might have to go and be at the local school if there's a tsunami happen, without terrifying them, so that they've got some idea of, oh, okay, cool, when that happens, I'm just going to do this. And it's that thing, whether you're a Navy SEAL or a 6-year-old, all the research shows if you plan and prepare, you're much better off than, somebody who just goes, whoa, goodness me.
Yeah, we'll just wing it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the road safety. And we all know about, looking both ways when you cross the road. But you mentioned driveways, and there are other important notes I'm sure you talk to schools about.
Yeah. Holding hands is a really big one. This sounds really sort of bulldozy slash helicoptery, but it's not. Don't let your children go too far without you being in control. To give you some example, it's what I always say to the parents. I think Usain Bolt covers 100 metres in 9 seconds, right? If we pause for 9 seconds now and count 9 seconds, that's an awful long time, even if you're Usain Bolt, to get to your child.
Yeah.
So keep your kids close, but extend that sort of distance. So as they get older, give your child an extra 10 metres, give them an extra 5 metres, so that they can see, woo, independence, but you're still kind of keeping them safe. Gives me the heebies as a police officer. Is that even a word? Who knows? I'm seeing kids on their scooters, great fun, going down a flat road or going down a hill, and they're 200 metres ahead of their parents and probably going, maybe 5 or 6 Ks. All it's going to take is for a car to turn in or a car to come out of a driveway, and they're not going to be able to stop.
Yeah.
Scooters, skateboards, bikes, all great things. If you want to go that speed and you want to do that type of stuff, go down to the local skate park, go and do stuff with the kids there. But roads and footpaths are really not the place to play when you're on scooters. So I guess that's one of the big ones. Knowing what to do in car parks too as well. So when my little fella was young, we had the rule of get out of the car, put your hand on the car and wait till mummy or daddy comes around the corner, and then we're all good to go. But same thing, bringing up that confidence level so that all of a sudden we're not holding hands, because, you'll go through that phase, Mel. I'm sorry. I hate to say that to you.
I don't want that to ever
it's
stop.
going to happen, yeah, right. But that fact of, oh, actually, Dad, I can look. Oh, yeah, okay, we're good to cross. Oh, wow, thanks for looking after me, buddy. And away we go. So we're just building that confidence and empowering them. Yeah.
You are a wonderful advocate for many causes. As I said at the beginning, I know you through, the anti-bullying and Pink Shirt Day, so that's one thing. You're also a really wonderful advocate for children and people with neurodiversity. Tell me about some of these causes that are really special to you and the work
goodness.
you do.
Yeah. Literacy is a really big one, and I know that you and I both do books in homes. All the research shows, if your kids can't read, it's a huge hill to climb if you can't read. And I've taken statements off people who I've either arrested or I'm taking a statement off as a witness, and maybe I've written 2 or 3 pages, and I've said to them, can you read it and sign it to me? I can't read. And, they literally put an X on a piece of paper. And that's tragic. No adult should not be able to read.
How often does that happen?
Oh, not all that often, but on the odd occasion, it's quite surprising. It's like, that shouldn't happen. So reading is a very important one. My little fellow's neurodiverse, so neurodiversity is a really interesting thing, and one that I've support. Let me think. Child's health is another one. I've done some silly stuff for Children's Hospital, which as I get older, my body goes, thank you for doing that. But again, all that type of stuff. And as we well know, Pink Shirt Day, bullying. I know that in the current climate that we're in, perhaps it's losing a little bit of, shall we say, shine to it, but it's probably more important than ever. There are so many kids that are seeing things on media and through globalisation of media that I'm not going to say are wrong, but they're not very kind, let's put it that way. And I hope that we in New Zealand don't adopt some of those attitudes. So that's really, really important. As well as, I mean, I say I do the bullying stuff, but part of that is so that when kids do get bullied, they can be empowered to go and see and find somebody and say, this is happening to me and it doesn't feel right. It's not fair that they're picking on me for this or that. Exactly right. So yeah.
So we've covered a lot of topics. So this is a really hard question to for you to answer. But what do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing our young people at the moment from a police
cyber
perspective?
safety?
Right.
Yeah. Easily. Online grooming, sextortion, sharenting. So parents sharing images. Just to name
images of their children.
Yeah. So in the UK, for instance, before a child turns 5, some research I was reading, mum and dad will share that child's image 1,500 times with people that they don't know. And let's face it, it's all about digital footprints. Your child's digital footprint started the second they were born because you did a baby photo.
Yeah.
Every parent does, right? Mine didn't start until 1996. It was my first year at police college and the internet hit, right? So that was that.
Yeah.
So we're lucky because you and I don't have a digital footprint, but these kids are going to have a digital footprint all their life. So that to me is one of the biggest worries. And again, like I say to parents, it's not about banning tech from your children. I used to work in the music industry before I started in the police, and you and I both know, especially working in media, if you want to make something go, just ban it because everybody will be like, yeah, I want it.
No, I want that.
Yeah. But actually know the tech that they're dealing with. And if you don't know the tech, learn about it. Take an interest in their world, as I very often say to the kids, if you go and see your dad and say, Dad, I've just put a really dodgy reel on Instagram and I need some help, and your dad turns around to you and says, but all of our reels are in the garage because we went out fishing on Saturday, that's the wrong person.
No idea.
Yeah. But if you've got an auntie who's very tech savvy, that's the person you want to talk to. But also be there for your kids so that when they come to you with a problem, you're going to be shocked and awed and, oh my goodness, what were you thinking? Oh, that's ridiculous. But, okay, let's work together now and see how we can solve this. So many of the parents that I speak to are worried about online safety, and I know that there's lots of TV programs out there at the moment, but when you read the victim statements from kids who have been exploited on the internet, I'd say probably 80% of them are, I felt really ashamed. I couldn't talk to my parents about this. I was really worried and upset what other people would think about me. There's the problem. Yeah.
And what age are we talking about? How old are these kids?
So in our minds, and from the research I've seen, in New Zealand, we seem to think that, it's a teenage girl. It's not. I think just over half is males, young males. The youngest, I think I saw in some of the research being groomed, I think it was last year or the year before, was 10. Yeah, all the way up. And, I mean, luckily, touch wood, we're not as bad as America and North America, but who knows? But we need to have the ability to be able to talk to our kids, share a problem without ill will, without judgment, but to actually say, okay, cool, you've made a mistake, let's do what we can do to fix it.
As a dad and a police officer, because I found that as a journalist, I thought, I've seen too much of the bad stuff that goes on. This is not good for my parenting. But as a police officer and a dad, how do you find that? How do you stop yourself from always thinking about the very worst case scenario that could happen?
I've got a wife who tells me that I'm not on duty. To start off with, that's a start. And also realising what I see every day, a little bit like you, as a journalist, is the worst of human nature. Let's be honest, if there's a 12-year-old who goes around and delivers bread rolls to, I don't know, the old senior citizen next door who lives next to them, that's probably not going to make the 6 o'clock news. But that's a great thing. And the older you get, the more of that I think you actually open your eyes to, and you go, actually, that's a really bad media news story there, but that is an amazing story. So I think stepping out of the shadows sometimes to step into the sunlight is a good thing for everybody, not just police officers and journalists. Yeah.
I like that, stepping out of the shadows.
Yeah.
There's been so many tips there for parents and so many takeaways. Is there anything that you want to leave people with? Any kind of
I guess
last advice?
Just be approachable to your kids. Take an interest in their world, regardless of whether that's online gaming, on a computer or anything else. If you don't have the knowledge, seek the knowledge. And don't say no just for the sake of saying no. The number of, God bless them, dads who are oh, we never had this internet stuff in my day. I'm like, brackets, we didn't in mine either. But I just wish it would all go away. It's not going to. As much as you wish it to, it's not going to. So take it on board, embrace it, and if you don't know, find somebody who does know. I guess those are the big things, but just be approachable. Give them the why, but also give them the skills to know that if you go past the why, maybe you make a big mistake, it's okay to come and see me, and without judgment. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Pleasure.
Yeah, really good takeaways there. And thank you very much for all the work that you do in schools, also helping to spread these messages to children.
It's all good. It's like I say to the kids, I'm having as much fun as you are, but you can't tell the Commissioner that because otherwise I'll lose my job.
And I've seen you in action and you do have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Welcome.
Constable Brian Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If that topic was helpful for you and you'd like to hear more, please do like and subscribe. It sends me that feedback. School Shorts is all about supporting busy parents who want their children to thrive. Follow on social at School Shorts NZ for fun ideas, helpful resources, and exclusive giveaways.